The wind howled across the sheer granite face of El Capitan, a 3,000-foot monolith that loomed over Yosemite Valley like a silent giant. It was a place that called to the brave, the reckless, and sometimes the doomed. 3 years ago, a group of climbers, friends bound by a shared love for adventure, set out to conquer this beast. They were young, ambitious, their packs stuffed with gear, and their hearts full of dreams. Nobody knew then that they'd vanish without a trace, leaving behind nothing but questions and a mystery that would haunt the valley for years. What happened to them? Where did they go? And why, 3 years later, are investigators still reeling from what they found? This is a story about courage, secrets, and the kind of discovery that changes everything. Stick with me, because what I'm about to tell you will leave you speechless. It all started on a crisp October morning in 2022. The sun was just creeping over the horizon, painting the valley in shades of gold and pink. For climbers, Jake, Mia, Ethan, and Sarah stood at the base of El Capitan, staring up at the wall that had broken so many before them. Jake, the group's unofficial leader, was a 28-year-old with a quick smile and a reputation for pushing limits. He'd climbed peaks all over the world, but El Capitan was his white whale. Mia, his girlfriend, was quieter but just as fierce, her eyes always scanning the rock like she could see its secrets. Ethan, the youngest at 24, was the joker, always cracking wise even when the stakes were high. And Sarah, the meticulous one, was the planner, the one who double-checked every rope and carabiner. They were a tight crew, the kind of friends who'd laugh through freezing nights and share their last granola bar. That morning, they were buzzing with excitement, their voices echoing through the valley as they prepped for the climb. Nobody could have guessed it would be the last time anyone saw them alive. El Capitan isn't just any rock. It's a beast that's claimed lives for decades. Climbers talk about it like it's alive, like it tests you, dares you to make a mistake. The route they chose, the nose, is legendary, 31 pitches of brutal, vertical terrain. Most climbers take 3 to 5 days to summit, camping on tiny ledges called bivouacs along the way. The team had trained for months, plotting every move, studying weather patterns, packing enough food and water for a week. They weren't rookies. They knew the risks. Still, something about this climb felt different. A park ranger who saw them that morning later said Jake seemed distracted, like he was carrying a weight nobody else could see. Mia kept glancing at him, her face tight with worry. Ethan was quieter than usual, his usual jokes replaced by a nervous energy. Only Sarah seemed her usual self, checking her gear with laser focus. By noon, they were gone, swallowed by the wall. Days passed, then weeks. When they didn't check in, their families sounded the alarm. Search and rescue teams scoured the face of El Capitan, rappelling down cliffs, scanning with drones, calling their names into the wind. Nothing. No gear, no footprints, no sign of a fall. It was like the mountain had opened up and taken them whole. The climbing community was shaken. Forums lit up with theories. Did they slip and plummet into a crevasse? Did a storm catch them off guard? Or was it something else, something nobody wanted to say out loud? Months turned into a year, then 2. The case went cold, their faces fading from missing posters. But their families never gave up. They kept pushing, begging for answers, even as hope faded. Then, 3 years later, a hiker stumbled across something strange near the base of El Capitan, a tattered backpack half buried in the dirt. Inside were journals, photos, and a cryptic note that sent investigators scrambling. The note wasn't from any of the climbers. It was written by someone else, someone who claimed to know what happened that day. The words were chilling, hinting at betrayal, fear, and a secret the climbers took to their graves. But here's the thing. The backpack was miles from where they were last seen. How did it get there? And why did it take 3 years to find? Investigators dug deeper, combing through the journals, piecing together clues. What they uncovered wasn't just shocking, it was unthinkable. A story of trust, deception, and a truth so wild it's hard to believe. Let me take you back to that note for a second because it's where things get really weird. It wasn't just a random scribble. It was detailed, almost like a confession, but it didn't add up. The handwriting didn't match any of the climbers, and the details pointed to someone who wasn't even on the climb. Who wrote it? And why leave it there, in a bag that looked like it had been deliberately hidden? The journals told a different story, arguments among the group, tension building as they climbed higher. Jake wrote about a decision he regretted, something he called the biggest mistake of my life. Mia's entries were vaguer, full of doubt about someone close to her. Ethan's were short, almost frantic, like he knew something was coming. Sarah's were the strangest, pages of technical climbing notes mixed with cryptic warnings about watching your back. What were they afraid of? And who was with them that nobody knew about? The investigation took a wild turn when they tested the backpack for DNA. They found traces that didn't belong to the climbers, traces that matched no one in the system. It was like a ghost had been there. The note mentioned a meeting, a plan, and a betrayal, but it stopped short of naming names. Investigators started asking questions nobody had asked before. Did someone else join the climb? Was there a fifth person nobody knew about? Or was the note a plant meant to throw everyone off? The more they dug, the stranger it got. Locals started whispering about strange lights on El Capitan the night the climbers disappeared, lights nobody could explain. Some said it was just climbers' headlamps, but others swore it was something else, something that didn't belong on that mountain. Now, I know what you're thinking. This sounds like it's straight out of a movie. But every word of this is based on what investigators found and what people in Yosemite whispered about for years. The families of the climbers are still out there, demanding answers, refusing to let this die. And that note, it's still out there, locked in evidence, raising more questions than answers. What did Jake regret? Who was Mia doubting? And what was Sarah warning about? The truth is out there, somewhere on that mountain, and what they found 3 years later will blow your mind. But to get there, we've got to dig deeper, follow the clues, and face the shadows of El Capitan. Are you ready for what's next? Okay, so we're standing at the edge of this mystery, staring up at El Capitan with more questions than answers. That backpack, those journals, that cryptic note, it's all pointing to something bigger, something nobody saw coming. Let's step back and dig into who these climbers were, what drove them to take on this beast of a mountain, and why the clues they left behind are still giving investigators chills. This isn't just a story about a climb gone wrong. It's about trust, secrets, and the kind of bonds that can either save you or break you. The truth is out there, buried in the shadows of that granite wall, and we're about to get closer to it. But I'm warning you, every step we take just makes the mystery deeper. Jake Thompson was the kind of guy you couldn't help but notice. Tall, with a scruffy beard and eyes that seemed to hold 1,000 stories, he had a way of making you feel like you could do anything. He grew up in Colorado, where the Rockies were his backyard, teaching him to climb before he could ride a bike. By the time he was 20, he'd summit peaks in Peru, Nepal, and Alaska, earning a reputation as a fearless climber with a knack for getting out of tight spots. But Jake wasn't perfect. He had a stubborn streak, a need to prove himself that sometimes clouded his judgment. Friends said he'd take risks others wouldn't, not because he was reckless, but because he believed he could outsmart the mountain. El Capitan was his obsession, the one climb that kept him up at night. He'd talk about it like it was a living thing, a challenge that would either make him or break him. When he convinced Mia, Ethan, and Sarah to join him, he promised it would be the adventure of their lives. But there was something he wasn't telling them, something that showed up in his journal later, a secret he carried up that wall. Mia Delgado was Jake's anchor, the one who kept him grounded. She was 26, with a quiet strength that made you trust her instantly. Born in San Diego, she fell in love with climbing during a college trip to Joshua Tree. She wasn't in it for the glory like Jake. For her, it was about the peace she found on the rock, the way the world fell away when she was hundreds of feet up. She and Jake met on a climb in Utah, sparking a romance that was as intense as it was complicated. Mia loved Jake, but she wasn't blind to his flaws. Her journal entries, found in that backpack, hinted at tension between them. She wrote about arguments, about Jake's obsession with El Capitan pushing them apart. One entry stood out. He's hiding something, and it's eating him alive. I don't know if I can trust him anymore. What was Jake keeping from her? Was it about the climb, or something deeper? Mia's words painted a picture of a woman caught between love and doubt, climbing a mountain she wasn't sure she'd come down from. Ethan Carter was the group's wild card. At 24, he was the youngest, with a lanky frame and a grin that could defuse any argument. He grew up in Seattle, where rainy days drove him to indoor climbing gyms. Ethan wasn't the strongest climber, but he was clever, always finding a way to make a tough pitch work. He was the one who'd crack jokes on a freezing ledge, keeping everyone's spirits up. But there was another side to Ethan, one he didn't show often. His journal entries were short, almost rushed, like he was afraid of writing too much. One page had just a single line, "I saw something I shouldn't have." What did he mean? Was it about Jake, Mia, or someone else? Ethan's family later told investigators he'd been acting strange before the climb, checking his phone constantly, jumping at small noises. He'd even called his sister the night before they left, saying he wasn't sure about the trip, but wouldn't explain why. Whatever Ethan knew, it went with him up El Capitan, and it's part of why that note in the backpack feels so unsettling. Sarah Nguyen was the glue that held the group together. At 27, she was the planner, the one who made sure every detail was perfect. Growing up in San Francisco, she'd always been drawn to puzzles, whether it was coding in high school or mapping out a climb. Sarah wasn't flashy. She didn't post her climbs on social media or brag about her skills, but she was meticulous, the kind of person who'd triple-check a knot before trusting it with her life. Her journal was the most detailed, filled with sketches of the route, notes on gear, and calculations for every pitch. But mixed in with the technical stuff were lines that didn't make sense at first. "Keep your eyes open," she wrote. "Someone's not who they say they are." Was she talking about one of the group, or someone else entirely? Sarah's family said she'd been quieter than usual before the climb, spending hours alone, studying maps of Yosemite. When they asked her about it, she'd just smile and say she was preparing. Preparing for what, though? That's the question that keeps investigators up at night. The climb itself was a monster. The nose route on El Capitan is no joke. 31 pitches of granite that test every ounce of your strength, skill, and nerve. It's not just about climbing. It's about endurance, about staying sharp when you're exhausted, dehydrated, and hanging off a ledge the size of a coffee table. The team had planned to take 5 days, moving methodically, setting up bivouacs to rest each night. They'd study the weather, packed extra supplies, even practiced the route on smaller climbs. But El Capitan doesn't care about your plans. Storms can roll in without warning, loose rock can give way, and one wrong move can send you tumbling. The climbers knew this, but they went anyway. Why? For Jake, it was about conquering his obsession. For Mia, it was about proving she could keep up. For Ethan, it was about loyalty to his friends. And for Sarah? Her reasons were less clear, but her journal hinted at something personal, something she needed to face on that mountain. Let's talk about that note again, because it's the key to everything. When the hiker found that backpack in 2025, it was like opening a Pandora's box. The note was written on a crumpled piece of paper, the kind you'd tear from a notebook in a hurry. It wasn't signed, but the words were deliberate, almost taunting. They thought they could trust each other, it said. They were wrong. What happened up there wasn't an accident. The rest was vaguer, talking about a meeting, a plan gone wrong, and someone who knew too much. Investigators couldn't make sense of it at first. The handwriting didn't match any of the climbers, and the paper was oddly clean, like it hadn't been exposed to the elements for long. The backpack itself was another puzzle. It was one of Jake's, but it was found 5 miles from the base of El Capitan, in a spot climbers rarely go. How did it get there? Did someone move it? Or was it hidden on purpose? And why now, 3 years after they vanished? The journals only made things murkier. Jake's entries were full of regret, talking about a choice he made before the climb that he couldn't take back. "I should have said no," he wrote. "This is on me." Mia's were more emotional, hinting at a fight with Jake that left her shaken. "He's not the man I thought he was," she wrote 2 days into the climb. Ethan's entries were sparse, but one stood out. "We're not alone up here." That line sent chills through the investigators. Was he talking about another climber or something else? Sarah's journal was the most cryptic, mixing climbing notes with warnings. "Don't trust the ropes," she wrote. "Someone's watching." Was she paranoid, or did she know something the others didn't? The journal stopped abruptly. The last entries dated October 15th, 2022, 3 days into the climb. After that, nothing. No more words, no more clues, just silence. Yosemite itself is a character in this story. The valley is breathtaking, with its towering cliffs and whispering pines, but it's also unforgiving. Climbers call it the Valley of Death for a reason. El Capitan has seen dozens of accidents over the years, falls, rock slides, equipment failures. But this wasn't a typical accident. Search teams found no bodies, no gear, no trace of the climbers beyond that backpack. The weather that week in 2022 was clear, no storms to blame. The drones saw nothing, not even a scrap of rope. It was like the mountain had swallowed them whole. Locals started talking about the strange lights again, the ones seen the night the climbers disappeared. Some said it was just headlamps, but others swore they moved too fast, too erratically. A few old-timers even brought up Yosemite's history of unexplained vanishings, stories of hikers and climbers who went missing and were never found. Was this just another tragedy, or was there something more sinister at play? The families of the climbers were relentless. Jake's mom, Linda, organized search parties long after the official effort stopped. She'd stand at the base of El Capitan, staring up, like she could will her son to come back. Mia's brother, Carlos, quit his job to dig into the case, chasing leads that led nowhere. Ethan's sister, Emily, posted on climbing forums, begging for anyone who'd seen them to come forward. Sarah's parents were quieter, but they hired a private investigator who started asking questions about the group's dynamics. Did they fight? Was there jealousy or betrayal? The PI found something odd, texts between Jake and an unknown number, sent just days before the climb. The messages were vague, talking about meeting up and keeping it quiet. Who was Jake talking to? And why didn't he tell the others? Then there's the DNA on the backpack. It didn't match the climbers, and it didn't match anyone in the national database. Investigators started calling it the ghost DNA, a trace of someone who shouldn't have been there. They tested it against park rangers, other climbers, even locals who frequented the area. Nothing. The note mentioned a fifth person, someone who knew what happened but wasn't part of the official group. Was it a guide, a rival climber, or someone with a grudge? The climbing community is tight-knit, but it's not without drama. There were rumors of a falling out between Jake and another climber a year before, someone who'd been cut from an earlier expedition. Could they have followed the group up El Capitan? The idea sounds crazy, but the note and the DNA make you wonder. The investigation also turned up something strange about the climbers' gear. Sarah's journal meticulously listed everything they brought: ropes, carabiners, cams, even specific brands. But when investigators cross-checked her list with what was found in the backpack, some items were missing. A rope, a set of quick draws, and a small knife weren't there. Did they lose them on the climb, or were they taken? And if they were taken, by whom? The backpack itself was in decent shape, not weathered like you'd expect after 3 years in the wild. It was almost like someone had placed it there recently, knowing it would be found. That thought alone is enough to make your skin crawl. As the investigation dragged on, the families started to fracture. Jake's mom clashed with Mia's brother, accusing him of not doing enough. Ethan's sister began to suspect Sarah, pointing to her cryptic journal entries as proof she knew something. Sarah's parents stayed quiet, but their private investigator kept digging, turning up more questions than answers. The climbing community was divided too. Some believed it was just a tragic accident, while others whispered about foul play. Online forums exploded with theories: a secret fifth climber, a sabotage, even wild ideas about Yosemite's cursed history. One post, buried deep in a thread, mentioned a strange figure seen near El Capitan the day the climbers vanished. The poster claimed it was a man in dark clothing, standing alone, watching the wall. Nobody could verify it, but it added fuel to the mystery. Let's not forget the lights. Those strange, flickering lights on El Capitan the night the climbers disappeared. Park rangers dismiss them as headlamps, but climbers who know the route say headlamps don't move like that. They're steady, predictable. These lights were erratic, darting across the face of the mountain like they were searching for something. A few locals claimed they saw them too, from the valley floor, and one even recorded a shaky video. The footage is grainy, hard to make out, but it's enough to make you question what was really up there. Were the climbers signaling for help? Or was someone or something else on the mountain with them? We're deep in this now, and the pieces still don't fit. The note, the journals, the ghost DNA, the missing gear, the lights, it's all pointing to something bigger than a simple climbing accident. The families are still out there, fighting for answers, refusing to let this fade. Investigators are combing through every clue, but each one just leads to more questions. Who was the fifth person? What did Jake regret? And what was Sarah warning about in her journal? The truth is up there, somewhere on that unforgiving wall of El Capitan, waiting to be found. But the deeper we go, the darker it gets. Stick with me, because the next piece of this puzzle is going to change everything you thought you knew. Alright, we're knee-deep in this mystery now, and the shadows of El Capitan are only getting darker. The backpack, the cryptic note, the journals, the ghost DNA, it's all swirling around a truth that feels just out of reach. The climbers, Jake, Mia, Ethan, and Sarah, are gone, but their story is far from over. The note hinted at betrayal, a plan gone wrong, and someone who wasn't supposed to be there. But who? And what really happened on that mountain? Let's dive into the heart of this thing, peeling back the layers of the climbers' lives, their relationships, and the secrets that might have followed them up that granite wall. The tension is thick, and every clue we uncover just pulls us deeper into the unknown. Buckle up because this is where things get messy. Let's start with Jake, because he's at the center of this storm. Everyone saw him as the fearless leader, the guy who could stare down a mountain and win. But the more you look at his life, the more you see cracks in that image. A year before the climb, Jake had a falling out with a climber named Ryan Keller, a guy he'd known since his Colorado days. Ryan was supposed to join Jake on a big expedition in the Alps, but Jake cut him out at the last minute, saying Ryan wasn't ready. Ryan didn't take it well. Friends said he was furious, calling Jake a traitor who'd turned his back on their friendship. There were rumors Ryan had been spotted in Yosemite around the time of the climb, but nobody could confirm it. Jake's text to that unknown number, the ones about meeting up and keeping it quiet, started right after that fight. Was Ryan involved somehow? Did he follow Jake to El Capitan, looking for revenge? The notes line about, they thought they could trust each other, keep circling back to this. Jake's journal didn't mention Ryan by name, but that regret he wrote about, the biggest mistake of my life. Could it be tied to that old grudge? Mia's perspective adds another layer of doubt. She loved Jake, but her journal painted a picture of a relationship on the edge. They'd been together for 2 years, and while they were solid on the surface, Mia was starting to question him. She wrote about a night a week before the climb when Jake came home late, his face pale, refusing to talk. He's carrying something heavy, she wrote. I asked, but he just shut me out. Mia wasn't the type to let things go, but she also wasn't one to push too hard. Instead, she watched, picking up on small things, Jake's secretive phone calls, the way he'd stare at El Capitan like it was more than just a climb. Her journal hinted at a moment on the second day of the ascent when she caught Jake whispering to someone on their radio, someone who wasn't part of the group. She didn't write down what she heard, only that it made her stomach twist. Was Jake talking to Ryan, or someone else entirely? Mia's doubt wasn't just about Jake, it was about the whole climb. This mountain feels wrong, she wrote. Like it's watching us. Her words make you wonder if she sensed something the others didn't, something that went beyond the rock. Ethan's role in all this is harder to pin down. He was the group's jokester, but his journal and his behavior before the climb tell a different story. That line, I saw something I shouldn't have, keeps nagging at you. What did he see? Was it on the mountain, or before they even started? Ethan's sister, Emily, told investigators he'd been acting paranoid in the weeks leading up to the trip. He'd started carrying a small knife, something he'd never done before, and he was obsessive about checking his gear. Emily remembered a phone call where Ethan sounded shaken, saying, I don't know if I should go. When she pressed him, he brushed it off, saying it was just nerves. But there was something else, a text Ethan sent to a friend the day before they left for Yosemite. It just said, if anything happens, check the footage. What footage? The climbers had a GoPro to record their ascent, but it wasn't found in the backpack. Did Ethan capture something on that camera, something that could explain what happened? Investigators are still searching for it, but the idea that Ethan knew something dangerous was coming makes his silence on the mountain all the more chilling. Sarah's story is where things get really strange. She was the planner, the one who kept everything together, but her journal suggests she was preparing for more than just a climb. Her cryptic warnings, someone's not who they say they are and don't trust the ropes, read like she was expecting trouble. Sarah had a knack for noticing details others missed, and her family said she'd been digging into something before the trip. She'd spent hours online, researching El Capitan's history, particularly stories of unexplained disappearances. One night, she told her brother she'd found something weird about the route they were taking, but she wouldn't say what. Her journal mentioned an old climbing accident from the 1990s, where a team vanished on the nose, only for their gear to turn up years later, miles away. Sarah wrote, history repeats itself if you're not careful. Was she worried about the mountain itself, or something closer to home? Her notes about the ropes are especially troubling. Climbers live or die by their gear, and Sarah was meticulous. If she didn't trust the ropes, did she suspect sabotage? And if so, who is she pointing the finger at? The main conflict here isn't just about what happened on El Capitan, it's about trust, or the lack of it. The climbers were friends, but the journals show cracks in their bond. Jake's secrecy, Mia's doubts, Ethan's paranoia, Sarah's warnings. It's like they were climbing with ghosts in their heads. The note found in the backpack only deepens the betrayal angle. They were wrong, it said. Wrong about what? Each other? The climb? Or something bigger? Investigators started looking at the group's dynamics, wondering if the real danger wasn't the mountain, but the people on it. There's a theory that the climbers weren't as united as they seemed. Jake's obsession with El Capitan might have pushed the others too far, ignoring their concerns, driving a wedge between them. Mia's journal hints at a fight on the second day, something about Jake wanting to push higher when the others wanted to rest. Ethan backed Mia, but Sarah stayed quiet, her journal noting, "I'm not here to argue. I'm here to survive." Survive what, though? The climb, or something else? Let's not ignore the subplot with Ryan Keller, because it's too juicy to dismiss. After Jake cut him from that Alps trip, Ryan dropped off the climbing scene for a while. But a few locals in Yosemite swore they saw him in the valley the week of the climb, hanging around the base of El Capitan, watching climbers through binoculars. One ranger remembered a guy matching Ryan's description asking questions about the nose route, saying he was researching it. Researching or planning something. Ryan's social media went dark after the climbers disappeared, and when investigators tried to track him down, he was gone, no address, no phone, nothing. The text Jake sent to that unknown number could have been to Ryan, setting up a meeting that went wrong. If Ryan was the fifth person hinted at in the note, what was his motive? Revenge? Jealousy? Or something nobody's even thought of yet? The idea of a disgruntled ex-friend stalking the group up a 3,000-foot wall is wild, but in a mystery this tangled, nothing's off the table. Then there's the strange lights on El Capitan that night. The more you dig into it, the weirder it gets. The shaky video from the valley floor shows flickers moving across the rock, too fast to be climbers. Some say it was just the group's headlamps, but experienced climbers disagree. Headlamps don't dart like that, they're steady, focused. These lights were erratic, almost like they were searching for something. A local guide, who's climbed the nose dozens of times, said he'd never seen anything like it. He told investigators about a rumor in the climbing community, a story about watchers on El Capitan, people who aren't climbers but show up on the mountain, watching, waiting. It's probably just legend, the kind of thing climbers tell around a campfire, but the video and the note make you wonder. Was someone else up there, tracking the group? And if so, why? The families are another piece of this puzzle, and their pain adds a whole new angle. Jake's mom, Linda, is a force of nature, organizing searches, hounding investigators, refusing to let her son's name fade. But she's also angry, convinced someone knows more than they're saying. She's pointed fingers at Sarah's family, saying their daughter's cryptic journal entries are proof she was hiding something. Mia's brother, Carlos, is different. He's quiet, methodical, digging through every lead like a man possessed. He's the one who found Jake's text to the unknown number, and he's convinced they're the key. Ethan's sister, Emily, is the most vocal online, posting theories on forums, some wild, some scarily plausible. She's the one who brought up the GoPro, saying Ethan was obsessed with filming everything. If that camera's out there, it could hold answers. Sarah's parents are the quietest, but their private investigator is relentless, chasing leads about a mysterious figure seen near the mountain. The families don't trust each other anymore, and that fracture is making the investigation harder. Each one believes their loved one was the victim, not the cause, and it's tearing them apart. Another subplot that's hard to ignore is Yosemite's history. The valley has seen its share of mysteries. Hikers vanishing, climbers disappearing, gear showing up years later in places it shouldn't be. Sarah's research into that 1990s accident wasn't random. That team, 3 climbers on the nose, vanished without a trace, their gear found a decade later in a remote part of the park. No bodies, no explanation. Locals still talk about it, some saying the mountain is cursed, others blaming human error. Sarah's journal referenced that case, almost like she was looking for patterns. Was she worried history was about to repeat itself? Or did she find something specific, something that made her right, someone's not who they say they are? Yosemite's past is full of shadows, and this climb feels like it's part of a bigger story, one the mountain's been telling for decades. The missing gear is another thread that keeps tugging at you. Sarah's list was detailed, every rope, carabiner, and quick draw accounted for. But the backpack was missing key items, things climbers wouldn't just lose. A rope, a set of quick draws, a knife. Those aren't things you misplace on a climb. Were they taken by someone else? The note's mention of a plan gone wrong makes you wonder if the gear was part of it. Sabotage is a dark word, but it's hard to avoid. If someone tampered with their equipment, it could explain why they vanished without a trace. But who would do that? Ryan? A stranger? Or, hard as it is to say, one of the group? Sarah's warning about the ropes feels like a clue, but it's not enough to pin it down. Investigators are still searching the area, hoping to find the missing gear, but the mountain's not giving up its secrets easily. The ghost DNA is the final piece that keeps this mystery alive. It's not just that it doesn't match the climbers, it doesn't match anyone. Not park rangers, not locals, not even climbers who were in the valley that week. It's like whoever left it was a phantom, someone who slipped in and out without a trace. The notes talk of a fifth person fits here, but it's frustratingly vague. Was it someone who joined the climb uninvited? A guide they hired and didn't tell anyone about? Or someone with a darker purpose? The DNA was found on the backpack strap, like whoever carried it didn't expect it to be tested. That's the thing about El Capitan, it's a place where secrets get buried, but sometimes they come back to haunt you. We're standing at a crossroads now, with more questions than ever. Was Jake's secret tied to Ryan Keller, or something else entirely? Did Mia's doubts push her to confront Jake on the mountain? What did Ethan see that he shouldn't have, and where's that GoPro? Was Sarah's research a warning, or a red herring? And who or what was behind those lights? The note, the journals, the DNA, the missing gear, it's all building to something, but we're not there yet. The families are still fighting. The investigators are still digging, and El Capitan is still standing, silent and unyielding. The truth is up there, hidden in the cracks of that granite wall, and it's not done with us yet. Stay with me, because the next step in this story is going to shake you to your core. We're at the edge now, staring straight into the heart of this mystery, and El Capitan looms larger than ever. The note, the journals, the ghost DNA, the missing gear, those eerie lights, they're all pieces of a puzzle that's starting to take shape, but it's still maddeningly incomplete. Jake, Mia, Ethan, and Sarah climbed that mountain 3 years ago, and whatever happened up there left a trail of secrets that's got everyone, families, investigators, even strangers like us, hooked. The tension's been building, and now we're teetering on the brink of something big. Every clue points to betrayal, to a truth hidden in the cracks of that granite wall. But we're not there yet. The air's thick with suspense, and the next steps are going to pull us right to the edge of the cliff. Hold on tight, because this is where things get wild. The investigation took a sharp turn a few months ago when a new lead dropped out of nowhere. A climber, unrelated to the group, was cleaning up gear on a nearby route when he found something wedged in a crevice on El Capitan, a small metal carabiner, scratched and weathered, but with a faint engraving. JT 2022. Jake Thompson's initials, the year of the climb. It was a punch to the gut for the families, proof their loved ones had been up there, but it was nowhere near the nose route they were supposed to be climbing. How did it get there? Was it dropped during a desperate moment, or placed there later? Investigators rappelled to the spot, a treacherous overhang 2,000 feet up, and found something else. Faint scratches on the rock, like someone had been clawing at it. No blood, no other gear, just those marks, like a ghost's fingerprints. The discovery sent the case into overdrive, with search teams combing the mountain again, hoping for more. But it also raised a chilling question. Were the climbers trying to escape something or someone? Let's go back to that note, because it's burning a hole in the story. They thought they could trust each other. They were wrong. Those words keep echoing, and now they feel like a warning. The note mentioned a meeting and a plan gone wrong, but it also hinted at someone who knew too much. Investigators started zeroing in on Jake's text to that unknown number, the ones about meeting up and keeping it quiet. They traced the number to a burner phone, bought in a gas station near Yosemite days before the climb. No name, no owner, just a dead end. But the timing was too perfect. Was Jake planning something behind the group's back? The journals give us glimpses. Jake's regret, Mia's doubts, Ethan's fear, Sarah's warnings. They were falling apart up there, but what pushed them over the edge? The carabiner's location, far from their planned route, suggests they veered off course. Did Jake lead them somewhere he shouldn't have? Or were they forced? Mia's journal is like a window into her unraveling trust. On the third day of the climb, she wrote about hearing footsteps above them at night, faint but unmistakable. It's just the wind, Jake told her, but she wasn't convinced. Her entries grew shorter, more frantic, like she was running out of time. He's lying to me, she wrote. I saw him check the radio again, talking to someone. Not us.
Who was Jake talking to?
The burner phone text suggests an outsider, but Mia's words make you wonder if she confronted him. If she did, what happened next? Her last entry, dated October 15th, 2022, just said, I'm scared. I don't know who to trust anymore. That's the last we hear from her, and it's like a knife in the chest. Was Mia onto something, or was the mountain getting to her head? The idea of footsteps on a sheer cliff face at night is enough to make anyone's skin crawl. Ethan's paranoia adds another layer of dread. His journal's cryptic line, "I saw something I shouldn't have," is starting to feel like the key to everything. Investigators found a new clue in his sister Emily's emails. A week before the climb, Ethan sent her a blurry photo from his phone, showing a shadowy figure near their campsite at the base of El Capitan. The figure was too far to make out, but Ethan's message said, "This guy's been watching us. Don't tell anyone." Emily didn't think much of it at the time, but now it's a bombshell. Was this the fifth person mentioned in the note? The same person tied to the ghost's DNA? Ethan's text about checking the footage keeps circling back too. The GoPro is still missing, but climbers often stash memory cards in waterproof cases. If Ethan hid one, it could be up there holding answers. Search teams are scouring the mountain, but El Capitan's a beast, 3,000 feet of secrets, and it doesn't give them up easily. Sarah's journal is the most haunting. Her warnings about the ropes and someone not being who they say they are feel like she was one step ahead of everyone else. Investigators found something odd in her notes, a sketch of a specific pitch on the nose, marked with a red X and the words, "wrong way." That pitch, about halfway up, is notorious for loose rock and tricky moves. Did Sarah know something about the route was off? Her research into the 1990s disappearance keeps coming up too. She'd highlighted an article about that team, noting their gear was found miles from their route, just like Jake's backpack. Sarah wrote, "It's not the mountain. It's what's on it." What did she mean? Was she talking about a person or something else? Her family's private investigator uncovered a lead. Sarah had emailed a retired ranger before the climb, asking about unusual activity on El Capitan. The ranger replied, mentioning rumors of unauthorized climbers sneaking onto routes at night. Sarah never followed up, but her journal suggests she was watching for something or someone. The Ryan Keller angle is getting harder to ignore. After Jake cut him from that Alps trip, Ryan was a ghost, but new evidence puts him in Yosemite that week. A gas station clerk near the park remembered a guy matching Ryan's description buying energy bars and a map, looking agitated. He paid in cash and didn't make eye contact. Another witness, a hiker, said he saw a lone climber near El Capitan's base the morning the group started their ascent. The guy was in dark gear, moving fast, like he didn't want to be seen. Was it Ryan? If he was there, what was he doing? The burner phone Jake was texting could be his, but there's no proof, yet. Ryan's disappearance after the climb doesn't help his case. Investigators tracked his last known address to a rundown apartment in Reno, but he'd cleared out months ago. The note's talk of betrayal feels like it could point to him, but it's still too vague to be sure. Those lights on El Capitan are another piece that won't let go. The grainy video from the valley floor has been analyzed to death, but it's still unclear. The lights move too fast, too erratically, for headlamps. A drone expert brought in by the investigators said they could be from a small UAV, but who'd be flying one up there at night? The watcher's rumor Sarah was chasing keeps popping up too. A veteran climber told a story on a forum about a strange encounter on the nose years ago. A figure in dark clothing, no gear, just standing on a ledge at midnight. He thought it was a hallucination from exhaustion, but now he's not so sure. The locals don't like talking about it, but some swear El Capitan has a way of drawing in people who don't belong. Were those lights a search party, a drone, or something else? The climbers' journals don't mention seeing them, but Ethan's "I saw something" could be connected. It's like the mountain itself is hiding the truth. The families are at their breaking point. Jake's mom, Linda, is practically living at the base of El Capitan, organizing new searches, screaming at rangers for answers. She's convinced Sarah knew something and didn't speak up, pointing to her journal's warnings as proof. Mia's brother, Carlos, is quieter but just as desperate, poring over Jake's texts, trying to crack the burner phone's owner. He started to suspect Ethan, wondering if his paranoia was guilt. Ethan's sister, Emily, is a wildfire online, posting about the GoPro, begging climbers to look for it. She's getting threats now, anonymous messages telling her to stop digging. Sarah's parents are pulling strings behind the scenes, their private investigator chasing leads about that shadowy figure Ethan photographed. The families are turning on each other, each one believing their loved one was betrayed. It's heartbreaking, but it's also a clue. Someone's trying to keep this buried. A new twist came from the climbing community itself. A guide who was on El Capitan that week in 2022 came forward last month, saying he heard something strange on his radio, a burst of static, then a voice, faint and panicked, saying, we're not alone. He thought it was a prank at the time, but now he's sure it was one of the climbers. The timing matches Mia's journal entry about Jake's radio chatter. Was it Jake's voice, or someone else's? The guide couldn't tell, but he said the signal came from high up on the nose, right around that pitch Sarah marked with an X. Investigators tried to trace the radio frequency, but it was a dead end. Too much interference from the mountain. Still, that voice, those words, they're like a ghost whispering in your ear.
Who was up there with them?
And why didn't they call for help? The missing gear is another knife twist. Sarah's list was meticulous, but the rope, quick draws, and knife weren't in the backpack. Investigators found something else recently, a single quick draw, half buried near the carabiner's crevice, with the same JT 2022 engraving. It was tangled in a shredded piece of rope, like it had been cut. Cut, not frayed. That's not something a fall does. Sabotage is starting to feel less like a theory and more like a fact. Sarah's warning about the ropes keeps coming back. Did she check them and find something wrong? If someone tampered with their gear, it could explain why they vanished. But who had the chance? The group was together the whole time, or so they thought. The note's mention of a plan gone wrong feels like it's pointing to this, but it's still too slippery to grasp. We're right at the tipping point now. The carabiner, the scratches, the radio voice, the cut rope, they're all screaming that something went horribly wrong on El Capitan. Was it Ryan Keller, settling an old score? Was it a stranger, the fifth person nobody can identify? Or, hard as it is to think, was it one of the climbers themselves, turning on the others? Jake's secrets, Mia's fear, Ethan's footage, Sarah's warnings, they're all colliding, and the truth is so close you can almost taste it. The families are holding their breath, the investigators are closing in, and that mountain is still standing there, silent, daring us to find out what it's hiding. Something's about to break, and when it does, it's going to change everything. Are you ready for what's coming next? We're teetering on the edge of something massive here, with El Capitan staring us down like it's daring us to keep digging. The scratched-up carabiner, the cut rope, the panicked radio voice, the ghost DNA. It's all screaming that Jake, Mia, Ethan, and Sarah didn't just vanish into thin air. Something or someone took them out of the equation, and the closer we get, the more dangerous this feels. The note's words, they thought they could trust each other. They were wrong, are ringing louder than ever, and now a new twist is dropped that's turned this mystery upside down. The stakes are higher, the shadows are darker, and the truth is slipping through our fingers like sand. Let's dive in, because what just came to light is going to make your jaw drop. Just when investigators thought they were closing in, a bombshell hit. A hiker exploring a remote trail 5 miles from El Capitan stumbled across a hidden cave, barely visible behind a tangle of brush. Inside, tucked in a crevice, was a small waterproof case, the kind climbers used to protect gear. When they cracked it open, they found a memory card, the kind that fits a GoPro. Ethan's text to his friend, "If anything happens, check the footage," flashed through everyone's minds. The card was rushed to a lab, and what they found on it wasn't just a clue, it was a game changer. The footage was grainy, shaky, but it showed the climbers on the 3rd night of their ascent, camped on a narrow ledge high up on the nose. You could see Jake arguing with someone off camera, his voice sharp, almost desperate. Mia was in the background, her face pale, clutching her harness, like she was ready to bolt. Ethan was filming, his breathing heavy, and Sarah was nowhere in sight. Then, the camera jerked upward, catching a glimpse of a figure in dark clothing, just beyond the ledge, moving fast. The footage cut out abruptly, leaving investigators stunned. Who was that figure? And why was Sarah missing? This new evidence sent shockwaves through the case. The figure in the footage matched the blurry photo Ethan sent his sister before the climb, the shadowy person watching their campsite. It also lined up with the hiker's sighting of a lone climber in dark gear near El Capitan's base. Was this the 5th person from a note? The one tied to the ghost DNA? The footage didn't show a face, but the way the figure moved, quick, deliberate, suggested they knew the terrain. Investigators are now certain someone else was on the mountain with the group, someone who wasn't part of their plan. But the real kicker? The memory card had a timestamp, October 16th, 2022, a full day after the climbers' journal stopped. They were alive longer than anyone thought, but what happened in those missing hours? And where was Sarah when Ethan was filming? The argument in the footage is another puzzle piece that doesn't quite fit. Jake's voice was tense, saying, "You shouldn't be here." This wasn't the deal. Who was he talking to? Ryan Keller's name keeps coming up, especially since his whereabouts are still a mystery. Investigators tracked down a former climbing buddy of Ryan's, who said Ryan had been obsessed with El Capitan after Jake cut him from that Alps trip. He talked about proving himself on the nose, even if it meant doing it alone. Could Ryan have followed the group, confronting Jake on that ledge? The note's mention of a plan gone wrong feels like it's pointing to this, but there's a problem. Ryan wasn't a skilled enough climber to navigate El Capitan solo, especially at night. If it was him, how did he get up there? And if it wasn't, who else had a reason to be there? Mia's fear in the footage is haunting. She wasn't just nervous. She looked terrified, her eyes darting toward the darkness beyond the ledge. Her journal's last entry, "I'm scared. I don't know who to trust anymore," takes on new weight now. Was she afraid of Jake, the figure, or both? Investigators are starting to think Mia might have stumbled onto Jake's secret, the one tied to those burner phone texts. A new lead came from Carlos, Mia's brother, who dug through her old emails and found a draft she never sent. It was addressed to Jake, written the night before the climb. "If you're hiding something, tell me now. I can't do this blind." She never sent it, but it shows she was already suspicious. Did she confront Jake on the mountain? And if she did it push things to a breaking point? The footage shows her gripping her harness, like she was ready to move. Was she planning to climb down, to get away from whatever was happening? Ethan's role in all this is getting murkier. He was behind the camera, filming that argument, but his heavy breathing suggests he was scared too. His journal's line, "I saw something I shouldn't have," now feels like it's tied to that figure in the footage. Did he know who it was? His text about the footage makes it clear he wanted it found, but why hide the memory card in a cave miles away? Climbers don't just stash gear like that unless they're desperate. Investigators are wondering if Ethan broke away from the group, maybe trying to hide evidence or protect himself. The cave's location, far from the nose, suggests someone carried the card there after the fact. Was it Ethan or someone else? The GoPro itself is still missing, but the memory card's discovery has search teams scouring the mountain for more, hoping it's not too late. Sarah's absence in the footage is the biggest red flag yet. Her journal was full of warnings. Someone's not who they say they are. Don't trust the ropes. But she's nowhere to be seen on that ledge. Was she off climbing another pitch, checking gear, or something else? Her sketch of the wrong way pitch, marked with a red X, is now under intense scrutiny. That pitch, known for loose rock, is exactly where the carabiner and cut rope were found. Did Sarah go there alone, suspecting trouble? Her email to the retired ranger about unusual activity on El Capitan mentioned unauthorized climbers, and now investigators are digging into old park records. They found a report from 2022, buried in the files, about a group of unregistered climbers spotted on the mountain the same week. No names, no descriptions, just a note that they were moving strangely, avoiding rangers. Could Sarah have been tracking them, or did she stumble onto something she wasn't meant to see? The Ryan Keller subplot is heating up too. A new witness came forward, a bartender in a nearby town, who said Ryan was in her bar the night before the climb, drinking heavily and ranting about settling scores. He mentioned Jake by name, saying he'd regret crossing me. The bartender didn't think much of it until she saw Ryan's photo on a missing persons report. She also remembered him talking to a stranger at the bar, someone in dark clothing who left quickly. Was this the figure in Ethan's photo, the one on the footage? Investigators are now combing through CCTV from the town, but the trail's gone cold. Ryan's disappearance feels too convenient, and the burner phone's still a dead end. If he was on that mountain, he's done a hell of a job covering his tracks. But the note's talk of betrayal keeps pointing back to him, or someone like him. Those lights on El Capitan are another twist that's driving everyone crazy. The drone expert's theory about a UAV doesn't hold up. Drones don't operate well in the mountain's unpredictable winds, and no one reported hearing one. But the Watcher's rumor Sarah was chasing is gaining traction. A new story surfaced on a climbing forum, posted anonymously, about a group of climbers in 2021 who saw similar lights on the nose. They described a figure rappelling down the face at night. No headlamp, just a faint glow moving fast. They reported it to rangers, but nothing came of it. Now, with the footage showing that dark figure, the idea of someone or something stalking the climbers feels less like a campfire tale. Was it a person, or just the mountain playing tricks? The footage cuts off before we get answers, but it's enough to make your heart race. The families are unraveling under the pressure. Linda, Jake's mom, is furious about the footage, convinced it proves Jake was set up. She's blaming Sarah, saying her absence in the video is suspicious. Carlos, Mia's brother, is obsessed with the burner phone, spending every waking hour trying to trace it. He's getting cryptic messages now, texts from unknown numbers telling him to let it go. Emily, Ethan's sister, is risking everything, posting the blurry photo online, begging for leads. She's gotten death threats, but she won't stop, convinced the GoPros out there. Sarah's parents are pulling away, their private investigator now focusing on that unregistered group from 2022. The families are at war, each one clinging to their own version of the truth, but someone's trying to keep them quiet. Those anonymous threats feel like a warning. Someone doesn't want this solved. Another twist came from the cut rope found with the quick draw. Forensic analysis showed it wasn't just sliced, it was frayed first, then cut clean, like someone tried to make it look like an accident. This screams sabotage, and Sarah's warning about the ropes is starting to feel prophetic. Investigators are now looking at the group's gear prep. They found a receipt from a climbing shop near Yosemite, dated a day before the climb, for a new rope bought by Jake. But Sarah's journal listed a different brand, one they'd used for years. Did Jake swap the ropes without telling anyone? Or did someone else get to their gear? The shop clerk remembered Jake arguing with a guy in the parking lot, someone who looked off, but he couldn't describe him. Was it Ryan or the stranger from the bar? The pieces are piling up, but they're not fitting together. We're standing at the breaking point now. The GoPro footage, the cut rope, the shadowy figure, the unregistered climbers, it's all pointing to a betrayal that went down on that ledge. Was Jake double-crossed by someone he trusted? Did Mia's fear push her to do something drastic? Was Ethan's footage a last-ditch effort to expose the truth? And where the hell was Sarah? The mountain's holding its secrets tight, but the truth is clawing its way out. The families are on edge, the investigators are racing against time, and El Capitan is watching, silent as ever. Something's about to give, and when it does, it's going to hit like a rock slide. Stay with me, because we're one step away from the truth, and it's going to shake you to your core. We're at the breaking point now, teetering on the edge of the truth about what happened to Jake, Mia, Ethan, and Sarah on El Capitan. The GoPro footage, the cut rope, the shadowy figure, the ghost DNA, it's all been building to this, a moment where the secrets buried in that 3,000-foot granite wall finally come to light. The families are desperate, the investigators are relentless, and the mountain's been holding its breath, waiting for us to find the answers. The notes' chilling words, they thought they could trust each other. They were wrong, have haunted us, and now we're about to see why. This is the climax, the heart-stopping unraveling of a mystery that's kept us guessing for 3 years. But just when you think you've got it figured out, something else is waiting in the shadows. Let's dive in, because this is going to hit hard. Investigators were racing against time, chasing the leads from the GoPro footage and that hidden memory card. The blurry image of the figure in dark clothing, the cut rope, and Sarah's absence on that ledge. They were all screaming sabotage, betrayal, and a fifth person nobody could identify. Then, a breakthrough came from an unexpected place. A park ranger, going through old surveillance footage from a trail camera near El Capitan, spotted something chilling. On October 16th, 2022, the day after the climber's journal stopped, the camera caught a man in dark gear descending the mountain alone, carrying a heavy pack. The timestamp matched the GoPro footage, and the man's build was a dead ringer for Ryan Keller, Jake's old friend turned rival. The footage was grainy, but it showed him moving fast, like he was trying to disappear. Investigators tracked the trail to a nearby lot, where a car registered to Ryan was seen leaving the park that night. Ryan Keller wasn't just in Yosemite, he was on the mountain, and he was running. The pieces started falling into place. Jake's texts to the burner phone, the ones about meeting up and keeping it quiet, were traced to a phone bought in the same town where Ryan was spotted at the bar. The bartender's story about Ryan ranting about settling scores with Jake now felt like a smoking gun. Investigators dug deeper and found a deleted post on a climbing forum, dated a week before the climb, where Ryan hinted at taking back what's mine. The notes talk of a plan gone wrong, and someone who knew too much pointed straight to him. Jake's journal entries about his regret, the biggest mistake of my life, suddenly made sense. Jake had cut Ryan from that Alps trip, humiliating him in front of their climbing circle. Ryan wasn't just angry. He was obsessed, planning to confront Jake on El Capitan, the one place Jake felt untouchable. But what started as a confrontation went horribly wrong. The GoPro footage was the key to unlocking the truth. Investigators pieced together the final hours, frame by frame. On that third night, high on the nose, Jake was arguing with Ryan, who'd somehow followed them up the mountain. The footage didn't catch Ryan's face, but Jake's words, You shouldn't be here. This wasn't the deal, suggested a plan that had spiraled out of control. Mia's fear, her clutching her harness, wasn't just about the mountain. It was about Ryan's presence. Ethan, filming it all, knew something was wrong, his heavy breathing proof of his panic. Sarah's absence was the clincher. Her journal's warnings about the ropes and someone not who they say they are weren't about one of the group. They were about Ryan. She'd suspected he was following them, maybe even tampering with their gear. The cut rope and missing quick draws found near her wrong way pitch proved it. Ryan had sabotaged their equipment, fraying the rope first to make it look like an accident, then cutting it clean to ensure they'd fall. But here's where it gets gut-wrenching. Investigators believe Sarah confronted Ryan alone on that pitch. Her sketch of the wrong way spot, marked with a red X, was where she'd gone to check the ropes, suspecting sabotage. The scratches on the rock near the carabiner weren't random. They were Sarah's, clawing at the granite as she fought to hold on after the rope gave way. The GoPro footage cut off because Ethan, realizing what was happening, hid the memory card in a waterproof case, hoping it would be found later. He must have tossed it down the mountain where it landed in that cave, miles away. Mia and Ethan tried to climb down after Sarah fell, but the sabotaged gear left them stranded. Jake, torn between guilt and panic, faced Ryan alone. The footage didn't show what happened next, but the lack of bodies, the missing gear, and the ghost DNA suggest Ryan didn't just walk away. He covered his tracks, taking everything with him to hide the truth. The families were shattered by the revelation. Linda, Jake's mom, collapsed when she heard Ryan's name, remembering how close the two had been before their falling out. Carlos, Mia's brother, was furious, vowing to find Ryan himself. Emily, Ethan's sister, felt vindicated but heartbroken. Her brother's footage was the key, but it cost him his life. Sarah's parents were the quietest, their private investigator confirming Sarah's suspicions about unauthorized climbers. The unregistered group from 2022 wasn't a group at all. It was Ryan, moving under the radar, planning his revenge. The lights on El Capitan that night weren't drones or watchers. They were Ryan's headlamp, flickering as he rappelled down, leaving the climbers to their fate. The ghost DNA on the backpack was his, left carelessly as he stashed it to be found years later, a taunting clue to his crime. Investigators issued a nationwide alert for Ryan Keller, but he's still out there, a ghost like the DNA he left behind. The climbing community is reeling, with forums exploding over the betrayal. Yosemite's history of vanishings feels heavier now, like El Capitan has been collecting secrets for decades. The families finally have answers, but it's not enough. They want justice, closure, something to fill the hole left by their loved ones. The mountain stands silent, its granite face unmoved, holding on to the final moments of Jake, Mia, Ethan, and Sarah. The truth is out, but it's a bitter pill for friends, bound by adventure, torn apart by one man's vengeance. The note was right. They trusted each other, but they were wrong to trust the mountain and the man who followed them up it. But wait, here's the twist that'll leave you reeling. Just last week, a climber on a different route found a second memory card, tucked in a crack 2,500 feet up El Capitan. It's from the same GoPro, with a timestamp hours after the first footage cut off. It shows a new angle. Sarah, alive, clinging to a ledge, whispering into the camera. Her voice is faint, but clear. He's not alone. There's someone else. The footage ends with a shadow moving behind her, not Ryan's build, but someone taller, leaner. Investigators are stunned. Ryan wasn't working alone. There's another person out there, someone who helped him pull this off, someone still hiding in the shadows of Yosemite. The case isn't closed. The truth is bigger than we thought, and El Capitan's still keeping its darkest secret. Who was with Ryan that night? And why are they still out there, watching? The truth about what happened on El Capitan has finally broken free, like a crack splitting the granite face of that unforgiving mountain. Ryan Keller's betrayal, the sabotaged ropes, the GoPro footage, it all pointed to a chilling act of revenge that cost Jake, Mia, Ethan, and Sarah their lives. But that second memory card, found just last week, turned everything upside down. Sarah's whispered words, he's not alone. There's someone else, and the shadow of a taller, leaner figure behind her sent the investigation into a tailspin. The families, already shattered, are now grappling with the idea that Ryan didn't act alone. There's another player in this tragedy, someone still out there, hiding in Yosemite's shadows. We're at the end now, ready to tie up the loose ends, But this story's final chapter is as haunting as the mountain itself. Let's dive in, because the truth isn't done with us yet. Investigators were reeling from the new footage. Sarah's voice, faint but steady, was a lifeline to the past, proof she'd survived longer than anyone thought. The shadow behind her wasn't Ryan. It didn't match his stocky build. This new figure, tall and wiry, moved with a chilling purpose, like they knew exactly what they were doing. The memory card was rushed to the lab, and forensic techs worked around the clock to enhance the grainy image. Meanwhile, the families were called in, their faces a mix of hope and dread. Linda, Jake's mom, clung to the idea that this could lead to justice. Carlos, Mia's brother, was furious, convinced the second figure was the key to everything. Emily, Ethan's sister, was glued to her phone, posting updates to climbing forums, begging for anyone who might recognize the silhouette. Sarah's parents, usually so quiet, were the most shaken. Sarah's words felt like a message from beyond, a plea to keep digging. The first breakthrough came from the footage itself. Enhanced frame by frame, it showed the shadow holding something, a small, glinting object, maybe a knife or a tool. Investigators cross-checked it with the missing gear from Sarah's list. The knife was gone, along with the rope and quick draws. The cut rope found near the carabiner, frayed then sliced clean, now seemed like the work of two people, one to weaken it, one to finish the job. The ghost DNA on the backpack, once thought to be Ryan's, was retested. It didn't match him. It was a new profile, still unidentified, but it confirmed what Sarah's footage suggested. Ryan had a partner. The note's cryptic line, they thought they could trust each other, wasn't just about the climbers. It was about Ryan and this mystery figure, a plan that spiraled into chaos on that deadly ledge. The hunt for Ryan intensified. His car, caught on the trail camera leaving Yosemite, was traced to a junkyard in Nevada, stripped and abandoned. But a new lead came from a pawn shop in Reno, where a man matching Ryan's description sold climbing gear in late 2022, gear that matched the brands Jake's group used. The shop's CCTV showed Ryan, nervous and unshaven, with another man at his side. This second man was tall, lean, with a hood obscuring his face, just like the figure in Sarah's footage. The pawn shop clerk remembered them arguing quietly, the taller man grabbing Ryan's arm like he was calling the shots. Investigators pulled every record they could, and the trail led to a name. Daniel Holt, a former climbing guide who'd worked in Yosemite years ago. Holt had a reputation for being intense, almost obsessive, and he'd been fired for leading unsanctioned climbs on El Capitan. He knew the nose route like the back of his hand. Holt's connection to Ryan was a shock. They'd met during a climbing expo in Colorado, where Ryan, still stinging from Jake's betrayal, vented about his grudge. Holt, bitter from his own fall from grace, saw an opportunity. Investigators found emails between the two, vague but damning, talking about making things right and teaching them a lesson. Holt's expertise explained how Ryan got up El Capitan at night. He wasn't alone. Holt guided him, using his knowledge of the mountain to stalk the group. The burner phone Jake was texting wasn't Ryan's, it was Holt's. Jake had reached out to Holt before the climb, not knowing his history with Ryan, asking for advice on the nose. Holt saw his chance, feeding Jake just enough to gain his trust while plotting with Ryan behind the scenes. The meeting Jake mentioned in the footage was with Holt, who'd promised to join them for a pitch, but showed up with Ryan instead. The final picture of that night on El Capitan came together like a nightmare. On October 16, 2022, the climbers were camped on a ledge, exhausted but pushing forward. Sarah, suspicious of the ropes, had gone to check the wrong way pitch, marked in her journal. She found the sabotage, frayed ropes, tampered gear, and realized Ryan was behind it. She confronted him alone, not knowing Holt was there too. The GoPro footage from the first memory card showed Jake arguing with Ryan, unaware Holt was lurking nearby. Mia, terrified, sensed the danger, but didn't know the full scope. Ethan, filming, caught the figure, Holt, before hiding the memory card, hoping it would survive. Sarah's second footage, found later, showed her clinging to life after the rope gave way, Holt's shadow closing in. Investigators believe Holt finished what Ryan started, ensuring no one made it down. The climbers' bodies were never found because Holt, with his guide experience, knew how to hide them in the mountain's crevices, places search teams couldn't reach. The lights on El Capitan that night, seen in the grainy valley footage, were Holt's doing. He used a high-powered flashlight, not a headlamp, to move quickly and disorient the climbers. The watchers rumor Sarah chased was real. Holt had been spotted on unsanctioned climbs before, a shadow on the mountain. The unregistered climbers from 2022 were him and Ryan, scouting the nose, planning their move. The backpack, left miles away, was Holt's taunt, a way to keep the mystery alive while he and Ryan vanished. The ghost DNA was Holt's, left carelessly on the strap, a clue he didn't expect to be tested. The note, written by Holt, was his confession, disguised as a riddle, mocking the climbers' trust and the investigators' efforts. The families faced the truth in a quiet room at the Yosemite Ranger Station. Linda, Jake's mom, collapsed when she heard Ryan's name, remembering how close the two had been before their falling out. Carlos, Mia's brother, was furious, vowing to find Ryan himself. Emily, Ethan's sister, felt vindicated but heartbroken. Her brother's footage broke the case, but it couldn't bring him back. Sarah's parents were the quietest, their private investigator confirming Sarah's suspicions about unauthorized climbers. The unregistered group from 2022 wasn't a group at all. It was Ryan, moving under the radar, planning his revenge. The lights on El Capitan that night weren't drones or watchers. They were Ryan's headlamp, flickering as he rappelled down, leaving the climbers to their fate. The ghost DNA on the backpack was his, left carelessly as he stashed it to be found years later, a taunting clue to his crime. Investigators issued a nationwide alert for Ryan Keller, but he's still out there, a ghost like the DNA he left behind. The climbing community is reeling, with forums exploding over the betrayal. Yosemite's history of vanishings feels heavier now, like El Capitan has been collecting secrets for decades. The families finally have answers, but it's not enough. They want justice, closure, something to fill the hole left by their loved ones. The mountain stands silent, its granite face unmoved, holding on to the final moments of Jake, Mia, Ethan, and Sarah. The truth is out, but it's a bitter pill. 4 friends, bound by adventure, torn apart by one man's vengeance. The note was right. They trusted each other, but they were wrong to trust the mountain and the man who followed them up it. But wait, here's the twist that'll leave you reeling. Just last week, a climber on a different route found a second memory card, tucked in a crack 2,500 feet up El Capitan. It's from the same GoPro, with a timestamp hours after the first footage cut off. It shows a new angle. Sarah, alive, clinging to a ledge, whispering into the camera. Her voice is faint, but clear. He's not alone. There's someone else. The footage ends with a shadow moving behind her. Not Ryan's build, but someone taller, leaner. Investigators are stunned. Ryan wasn't working alone. There's another person out there, someone who helped him pull this off, someone still hiding in the shadows of Yosemite. The case isn't closed. The truth is bigger than we thought, and El Capitan's still keeping its darkest secret. Who was with Ryan that night? And why are they still out there, watching? The families faced the truth in a quiet room at the Yosemite Ranger Station. Linda, Jake's mom, collapsed when she heard Ryan's name, remembering how close the two had been before their falling out. Carlos, Mia's brother, was furious, vowing to find Ryan himself. Emily, Ethan's sister, felt vindicated but heartbroken. Her brother's footage broke the case, but it couldn't bring him back. Sarah's parents were the quietest, their private investigator confirming Sarah's suspicions about unauthorized climbers. The unregistered group from 2022 wasn't a group at all. It was Ryan and Holt, moving under the radar, planning their revenge. The lights on El Capitan that night were Holt's flashlight, flickering as he rappelled down, leaving the climbers to their fate. The ghost DNA on the backpack was Holt's, left carelessly as he stashed it to be found years later, a taunting clue to his crime. Investigators issued a nationwide alert for both Ryan Keller and Daniel Holt, but they're still out there, ghosts in the wind. Ryan's face is plastered across wanted posters, but Holt's is harder to pin down. He's a shadow, slipping through cracks like he did on the mountain. A lead came from a climbing gym in Montana, where a man matching Holt's description was seen last month, but he vanished before investigators could move. The anonymous threats to Emily stopped after the second memory card surfaced, suggesting Holt knows the net is tightening. The climbing shop receipt, the bar sighting, the trail camera footage, it's all building a case, but without bodies or a confession, justice feels incomplete. The families know this, and it's a wound that won't heal. The subplots that haunted us are starting to close. The strange lights, once a mystery, were Holt's flashlight, his calculated chaos. The Watcher's rumor Sarah chased was real, Holt's unsanctioned climbs, his obsession with El Capitan. The 1990s disappearance Sarah researched wasn't connected, but it fueled her suspicion, pushing her to spot Ryan's betrayal early. Jake's text to Holt, his regret over cutting Ryan, were the spark that lit this fire. Mia's fear, Ethan's paranoia, Sarah's warnings, they were all right, sensing the danger but too late to stop it. The missing gear, rope, quick draws, knife, was taken by Holt, hidden to cover their tracks. The GoPro, still unfound, likely lies in a crevice, its final secrets locked away by the mountain. Yosemite itself feels different now. El Capitan, that towering giant, stands as a reminder of what it takes and what it gives. Climbers still flock to the nose, but they talk about Jake's group in hushed tones, a story passed around campfires. The valley's history of vanishings feels heavier, like the mountain has a memory of its own. For the families, it's a place of loss, but also of strength. They've fought for 3 years, and their love for Jake, Mia, Ethan, and Sarah kept the truth alive. Linda started a foundation for missing climbers, Carlos teaches climbing safety, Emily runs a blog about Ethan's courage, and Sarah's parents fund search efforts in Yosemite. Their pain is raw, but it's fueled by purpose. What's the takeaway from all this? Trust is a fragile thing, especially when you're hanging off a cliff, 3,000 feet up. Jake, Mia, Ethan, and Sarah trusted each other, but they couldn't see the shadows creeping closer. Ryan's grudge, Holt's cunning. It turned a dream climb into a nightmare. El Capitan tests you. Not just your strength, but your heart, and it doesn't forgive mistakes. For us, it's a reminder to hold tight to the people we love, to question the secrets we keep, and to never underestimate the power of a mountain or a betrayal. The final twist, that second shadow, leaves us with a shiver. Holt's still out there, and until he's caught, El Capitan's story isn't over. It's a haunting end, a truth that answers our questions, but leaves us looking over our shoulders, wondering who's watching from the shadows. This story sticks with you, doesn't it? For friends, a mountain, a betrayal, and a secret that almost stayed buried. Yosemite's still there, beautiful and brutal, waiting for the next climber to test their fate. The families keep fighting, the mountain keeps standing, and somewhere, maybe, the truth is still whispering. What would you do if you were up there, facing the unknown? That's the question El Capitan asks us all.